And welcome to the Dean Obeidallah Show. We're here Tuesday, February 10th. Joining me now, Danielle Moodie, host of the Danielle Moodie Show, of course, on Substack. She's got the Fire Pit series on Substack. I think is that a different
Yep.
one? Host of Democracy-ish. I think last time you have podcasts within Substacks. It's like layers of things going on. I want to thanks for being on. Thanks for people who are joining. It's great to see so many people. First of all, how are you? How's everything going?
I'm hanging in. I'm hanging in by my fingernails, Dean. I'm hanging in.
It's gonna get better, no? Yes, maybe?
What exactly do you think is going to get better?
The
You know me, I'm not
spring
the one to provide hope today.
the
Uh,
spring look, there's a lot of things. I wanted to talk about something that's not getting as much attention, the Bad
okay.
Bunny thing, which we'll touch on, huge attention. Donald Trump with the most racist videos ever of the Obamas, a lot of attention. We'll touch on that as well. But right now, we saw in the last week, and I'm not sure when these incidents happened, but they've been reported only the last week, the erasure of the Black and LGBTQ history by the Trump regime. And we'll start with the first one that got a little press. And the second one I only learned because my colleague, Michelangelo Signorelli, he
Mm,
flagged it yesterday and sent it around. I'm like, wow. The first one is Medgar Evers, the memorial for Medgar Evers. People should know him, civil rights icon, killed in his own driveway in
yep.
1963 by a Klan member who at first was not convicted, later convicted in the 90s. But in the literature that they gave out, the National Parks Conservation Association, it said that the killer, I won't even say his name, it's not worth it, was racist. The guy was in the Klan. Now the Trump regime took all the pamphlets out to get rid of the word racist because to them, a white supremacist Klan member is not a racist, but we know it's deeper. It's the idea of anything bad about white people, they don't want you to see because first of all, they take it personally and it's smearing white people. So they want to whitewash history where Medgar Evers was just randomly killed by a guy in his own driveway. You don't even know the why if you take it the racist component. So what's your reaction on first part?
I mean, my reaction is this is something that this regime did in its first term, and they're just continuing in this second term. This is the idea that whoever owns a power in this moment is who gets to tell the history. And so by willingly erasing, whitewashing, creating denialism, what he's doing is not about us, you and me in this moment, Dean. Then the folks that are watching, we know it's for generations to come. It's for those, young people that will go to these parks, that go to these places, that are looking for teachers that are looking for information and insight into teaching a curriculum that now they're trying to whitewash what will come. Right. And to make it so that racism is just something that we've all just made up, evidently, that it doesn't actually exist. And I'm like, frankly, if they think that, telling the truth is what makes white people look bad, then they should really just go away because they are right now out in front as the avatars for whiteness. And I can't think of a worse group of people to give white people a bad name than everyone that is associated with this regime.
Yep. And the idea that white people are the bigger victims of discrimination than black people is what Trump supporters say in poll after poll. It's been happening for years. I wrote about it in the first term. So that's why Trump plays on the victimhood of whiteness, the idea of you're white. And then Trump positions himself as the defender of whiteness, the defender of all things being white. So getting rid of the term racist to protect a white racist is consistent with that. The second part here, and this didn't get much press yet, and it deserves more, and I think it will, is there was a big rainbow flag at the flagpole for the Stonewall National Monument. And this is a place that was the birthplace of the modern LGBTQ community. So it had a big rainbow flag. It would make all the sense in the world. It's there. The Trump regime just took it down. Democratic members, elected officials here in New York are raising alarm bells about it. I mean, you intersect two communities. It's not just the black experience that they want to change the history of so people learn a different thing. But now with the gay community as well, they're trying to just whitewash any kind of connection to the LGBTQ community at the site. It's the birthplace of the modern day movement.
And if you go onto their websites, right? So we're talking about the physical space of Stonewall, which is in New York City, in the Village, and you're talking about the physical site. If you go on to the websites, right, they've completely erased trans people altogether. right? Transgender, right, as a term is not even in any description of, you would think it's just LGB, right?
Right.
Trans people are not even part of the community at all. They have erased them entirely from the language that you can find online. The reality here, right, and I think it's really important, and this is what I tell people that listen to me, is that this is an opportunity. Now, when you are seeing the erasure happening in broad daylight, when you're seeing it happen minute by minute, now is the time to create your own syllabus. Now is the time to honestly, truly, really learn the history of this country through diverse lenses, right? Like everything that they are telling you, like, oh, no, didn't happen, do a deeper dive. Pick 10 books, right? Pick 10 people in history that right now they're erasing, and you make it your fucking job to know the ins and outs of that. Because guess what? They cannot erase the actual internet where things exist, right? So they want to change their websites, and they want to change placards and what have you, so that generations from now, people have no idea. But the fact is that you can see it everywhere. So make it your job to be in the know. Make it your job to be a seer in this moment, right? And share those syllabi with people around you. That's what you can do. Your education is your power in this moment.
And, we saw in the past Republicans, even when Trump was out of power, passing all these critical race theory bans in schools it was to whitewash history. But what's different here is that you actually have the administration doing this in real time in front of us, getting the word racist out of a description that's accurate of the killer of Medgar Evers, then getting rid of the rainbow flag at Stonewall, which is makes no sense. It's outrageous. And it reminds me, I mean, there was a book by Jason Stanley about erasing the past, which is a tool of fascists. And
Hmm.
the George Orwell quote about whoever controls, I can read you the exact quote here so I don't screw it up. Who controls the past controls the future. Who
Hmm.
controls the present controls the past. Any who controls the past, you can write a mythology that serves your political agenda. That's what about controlling the past is. So if you're in power today, you can rewrite the history of this nation or whatever nation you're in, and that helps your agenda. And you can feed that to the MAGA base. The white man was once great, blah blah blah, whatever it might be, whatever, and that helps you get people animated, excited. Look at what's going on. I mean, all this is part and parcel. DEI going
Hmm.
after DEI is part of this, and to me, and I was talking about it on my show last night, the Bad Bunny thing and getting rid of DEI, and I want to get your reaction to this. I see a connective tissue. It's to go back to a whites only segregated society. It
Hmm.
wasn't like at Turning Point, they had four performers. They could put one of color. But by design, they chose not to. They went with four white performers to counter Bad Bunny, which was brown and black performers. They want a whites only thing. DEI is they get rid of black and brown people from offices, from universities, from society. And you can be the whites here and the colors there, pre-Civil Rights Act. And that's the Project 2025 really talks about undermining the Civil Rights Act without saying it that bluntly, but that's what they're getting at. Do you think their goal is really a new Jim Crow?
I think that their goal, if you want to take this walk with me for
Sure,
a
I'm here.
moment,
I'm here.
but I think that the goal is not only Jim Crow 2.0. I think that their goal is actually the reinstatement of slavery. I think that their goal
Mm,
is to build these mega concentration camps, which are popping up, that they want in all 50 states, and they have the absolute money and resources to do so. $170 billion. ICE is now the 16th largest military in the world. What I believe, and if folks think that those mega facilities are for the undocumented, are for the quote unquote immigrants, they are not. They are for those that disagree. They are for the
mm,
academics. They are for the journalists. They are for the dissidents. They are for us, right? And so the idea here is that what are the stocks that went through the roof when Donald Trump was elected? It was private prisons, right? And private prisons make money when they have bodies that are in there. The more bodies that are in there, the more money that they make. And so they have seen an industry in cruelty, right? And so what we have to understand is that when they name everyone as a terrorist, everyone becomes a domestic terrorist. You pick all of these people up. Well, then guess what I can force you to do? I can force you to work. I can force you to do the work that maybe you were doing if you were a field worker or construction worker or what have you, but now you're doing it for free, which makes me, as a CEO, as a shareholder, I've completely cut my bottom line and I've removed the people that I believe are poisoning the blood of this country away. So I can force sterilization, I can rape, I can do all types of things that are happening right now. The ACLU has put out reports of the torture and the abuses that are going on inside of these detention centers right now, right? And so if you fill them all up, and then you are able to say, well, these are all criminals, and folks need to, we know how we feel about prisoners in this country and criminals, and they've done wrong and they are deserving and blah, 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 blah. Well, then guess what? I have my new workforce that I don't have to pay health care to, that I don't have to answer to. And that when they die and their bodies break down, we'll do what we did for 400 years. We'll just have our breeding farms. We'll create the next level of workforce. So where do I think that this is going? I think Jim Crow 2.0 would be the nice version, Dean. I think that where they actually really want to go to is back to 1619. I don't even think that they're interested in the 20th century or the 19th century. I think that they're interested in going back to the beginning, where there is lawlessness, right? That they are the powers that be, and anyone that they point at and say is a criminal is who that person is, which means that I can then own you. And I'm including Black people, brown people, queer people. I'm also looking at you, white women, because you're the incubators for white supremacy, and that they cannot create more white men without white women. Right? And why do we roll back abortion rights? Why do we do all of these things? Why do we criminalize abortion? Because they need to control more bodies. That's the goal.
Wow. That now I know why you weren't happy when we first started our conversation. Because you know where this is going. Danielle is warning us. Look, I'm not making light of it. I am deeply concerned of what you're saying. And there was a Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals decision on Friday, and I do these "You Are My Guest" segments. Maybe I'll do one this week where I just do a deep dive of that, and people can hear about it. But in some, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals reversed all these other court decisions. They only controlling in the Fifth Circuit, but around the nation, other courts have rejected. This one was the first Circuit Court of Appeals to accept Trump's idea that you can hold people in detainment camps now, detention camps, and you can't even ask for bail. That's no bail. They can hold you. You have no criminal charges. They can hold you open ended till a judge gets to you, which can be 3 months, 6 months, a year, and there's nothing you to do to get out of it. That is a concentration camp. When there's no due process, you're in the world of concentration camps. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeal has just approved the first concentration camps in America. And they'll say, well, there is a semblance of due process. Yeah, but they can delay you going to see a judge, which they control. Immigration judges are not like the normal judges that we know. These are picked by the administration. They're not ones where Congress confirms them, that kind of stuff. They just go there and do their job, and then they're replaced. They don't do the job. They keep you in the camp 6, 7 months. Just read today about an Irish national. He's here 20 years, no criminal record, married to an American, on his way to getting a green card. They picked him up in September. He's still in his camp, and they won't let him out because they haven't processed him for deporting yet. And so he's just sitting there in limbo. And again, the biggest things, you have no ability to ask for bail, which is essentially habeas corpus, the idea of like, either give me some charges or there are no charges, let me post bail and at least I'll come back. Nope. You sit in a detention camp. That is the law of the Fifth Circuit. The Supreme Court at some point will get that case. And I'm deeply concerned that this Supreme Court will go along with it. And then, Danielle, we're on the path you're saying, because it's not that much further to go from undocumented resident to U.S. citizen in certain circumstances where, we're going to keep you for a period of time, and they'll declare war or emergency, some way to circumvent habeas corpus, which are guaranteed by the Constitution. They have to give you the charges, and you have a right to counter those charges. This is where we're going. I agree.
This
You
is where,
deny history, right?
yeah.
You have to deny history not to know where this is going. And I want people not to be scared, prepared. Be prepared, not scared, be prepared.
This is exactly, it's not even where we're going, it's where we are. Because there's a reason why, and Dean, you're the lawyer, there's a reason why people aren't being picked up and put into federal prisons. There's a reason why they're not being picked up and held in like your local jails, right? There's a reason why, because there are rules and the Constitution that you need to follow in that kind of criminal justice system. It's why you're creating these warehouses and outposts, because they're not just outposts like not in the center of a city or in the center of a town. They're outposts from the Constitution of these United States, right?
Mm.
And so what actually needs to be asked of our judiciary is that, is American soil not American soil? Right? So if you are on American soil, whether I'm in a warehouse or whether I'm in a duly named federal prison, if I'm on American soil, are we not governed by the Constitution? And if the answer to that is no, then we're not. Then we can willingly and knowingly say that what Donald Trump is creating is a bunch of Guantanamos. What he is creating is a bunch of Gitmos. What he's creating is a bunch of Auschwitz, right? Because what you're saying is that American soil is not sovereign, right? Like American soil is not beholden to the
Right.
Constitution,
That's yeah.
which means what then? Right? Which means what? Who gets to decide? So what people need to understand is that, like, again, you start with the low hanging fruit. Donald Trump told you on the campaign trail, I'm going after the worst of the worst, the criminals of the criminals. And then what do you see? You see nursery school teachers being arrested. You see children being thrown to the ground. You see pregnant women being beaten up, right? I just saw a guy went viral, white guy, calls into C-SPAN, Dean,
Right.
from New Mexico. And he says, this isn't what I voted for, right? He
Mhm.
says, I voted for Trump not once, not twice, but 3 times. But I didn't expect to see children thrown in jail. I didn't expect it. I mean, this guy, folks can Google it. New Mexico, white Republican, calling into C-SPAN last week. And
I,
I'm just like, because what Donald Trump has done, and this is the point where I think that people need to see it, is that they didn't want to see it. They didn't want it on their screens. They didn't want to be scrolling through this shit, right? Like
that's a good point.
they would be fine
Right.
if Donald Trump was doing this, so long as I can just go out to eat. I can just like open my computer and see like, funny clips and cat memes, that I'm not seeing devastation and tear gassed, nursery school teachers and whole communities under occupation. Like, so now that they are seeing it, it's like, oh oh God, make it go away.
And that's an excellent point. That it's not. I don't know if they care, but now it's undeniable, and it's the person you elected doing it. So you're called out to answer for it. And there was one case I wanted to, and in fact, we were going to have a lawyer on and a good friend today, but the woman was hospitalized. Not who the person was going to be on, but a young Palestinian woman, Lakeya Cordia. It's Lequaakordia. She was a Columbia student protesting against the genocide. She's been in ICE detention for almost a year. They've kept her there for a year, and she was just getting out now. I just saw she was just out of the hospital. She was rushed to the hospital after a medical episode. And yesterday, her lawyers, we were emailing who were going to come on to go, we can't come on because we don't know where she is. They said she had a medical incident. So they were worried she could end up being dead, or they don't. So now at least they've located where she is again in the system. 1 year. Her mom's a U.S. citizen. She's not a citizen. They've kept her for a year. They didn't deport her in a year. So you're not going to deport them. You're not going to have a judge determine should you have your rights here or not. And just so it's clear, everyone should know this. The Bill of Rights applies to citizens and non-citizens. It's anybody on our soil. There are different rights you get as a citizen versus non-citizen, like the right to vote, and those kind of things. But not this. The freedoms that are guaranteed in our Constitution apply to us equally. And so they have kept her for a year, and she's 33. Imagine spending a year in this detainment camp, which is a concentration camp, when there's no due process. So people people who are tuning in here get it. People listening to the show, checking us out on Substack, understand. I think the obligation on all of us is to share this with as many people
Yeah.
in a way that seems sane, and not like you're Carrie Matheson in Homeland drawing all connective tissues to a thing, and you see it's here. It's like, no, this is real. This is history. It's history come to life. And I wanted to touch on the horribly racist thing by Trump about the Obamas.
Hmm.
And everyone has seen it. They pick them as apes. It's one of the most despicable. It's racism 101. It's white supremacy 101. He never apologized. He won't even admit it was a mistake. He blamed the staffer, but still not apologize at all. And there are certain people shocked. This guy's been racist from day one. Like, I think the only shock was the backlash was much more swift than they expected because to remind people, the White House at first defended it. They called it fake outrage. They knew what was in it. It was flagged. They didn't go like, hey, the right answer right away would have been like, we really didn't know it's a mistake. Nope, fake outrage. And the MAGA people like Laura Loomer, that feces with lips, was saying is all defensible. She's the worst. She's a vile, she's an anti-Christian, anti-Muslim bigot. She is a vile religious supremacist terror. She's horrible. She blocked me years ago. I've known her long before she became famous. I would fight with her on Twitter, just anti-Muslim, but also anti-Christian. And people don't get it. When you're that right wing in terms of Jewish supremacy, and I didn't even hate to use the word Jewish because it's her own interpretation of a faith, and she's destroying a beautiful faith to oppress Christians and Muslims in the West Bank and justify killing us and all that. But in any event, this is the world we live in where this kind of racism, for some reason, it broke through a teeny bit. And do you have any insight why? I mean, a few more Republicans than usual actually said something. Not all of them, but a few more than the usual suspects. I'm like, what is going on? Is it Trump losing support in the polling? So they feel like maybe it's a good time to move on? Was it that offensive? They're like, this is just horrible. We can't defend this.
It's literally indefensible.
Right.
Like you couldn't pretend. So what they're always good at, and what they've been good at for the last 10 years, and legacy media has just refused to catch on because they're accomplices. What they're good at is just doubling and tripling down, right? Like, yeah, we did it. So what are you going to do about it? Yeah, he said it. So what are you going to do about it?
Yep.
And then what they've also been able to do on top of doubling and tripling down is saying that, like, well, that's not what he meant. It was a joke. It was this. It was that, right? Every single time. But when you have a video depicting the former president and the former first lady of the United States as apes, like, that connection to white nationalism, white supremacy, and anti-blackness is so deep and entrenched, you actually can't say that it's anything other than what the fuck it is. And for them to even say, Dean, like, oh, well, it was a staffer. There are 2 staffers supposedly that have access to Donald Trump's Twitter account, that has access to his Truth Social. So you're going to tell me that, like, at midnight on whatever night that he put that up, that there's just some lowly staffer that's just hanging around and thinking, I think that this would be great. It's Donald Trump. So can we just, like, stop, like, pretending that there's, like, some elusive staffer and blah, blah? Because if there was, they would have been like, oh, you know what? And Bob's been fired. No, he's not, because Bob is the president of the United States who, since he was born with every racist bone and spoon in his mouth, right? Like, the man, when he's in New York City running real estate, was sued for not allowing Black and brown people to rent inside of his buildings. The man took out a full-page ad calling for the execution of innocent Black children. The man has attacked every single Black person, every single Black woman, like, that he has come into contact with. He's called the nations shithole countries, right? Like, so you're going to tell me that all of a sudden now, oh, it wasn't him? He's the one that started birtherism. He told us that Barack Obama wasn't even fucking from here. Right? So give me a break, right? With this idea that all of a sudden we're supposed to believe, oh, well, I don't know who it was, but we know Donald Trump would never post a thing like that. Really? The same man that posted an image of Joe Biden being hogtied in the back of a car. It was on a car. Donald Trump reposted that on Truth Social.
In the first time, he reposted some of the most vile anti-Muslim garbage when that was his target. And then since then, Qatar and MBS bribed him so he doesn't talk about Muslims anymore, which is kind of bizarre right now. And just a few weeks ago, Donald Trump talked to the New York Times and talked about the Civil Rights Act. And I'll read the exact quote because he's against the Civil Rights Act.
Yep.
White people were treated very badly. A lot of them very badly. He goes, of the idea they couldn't get into colleges. I think it was very unfair. So the Civil Rights Act, not DEI, not affirmative action, not anything else. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 was unfair to white people. going back to the earliest point of our conversation, they want to go back to a whites only society. They know they've lost. When we're all playing, when all the brown and black people and the white people they don't like are all in the game together, they don't do well. A lot of it's because they suck. That's the truth. That they're not that amazing people. They think they're great and they suck. So what they want now is like, okay, I have an idea. You brown, black people and your white friends, which about 40% of white people are Democrats, you go play there. We're going to just have our own little, white supremacist games here. And, you sort of touched on this earlier. That's not far from the origins of this country. To
Yeah.
be blunt, we don't talk about it because it makes people uncomfortable. The origins of the nation were white supremacy in the Constitution,
Yep.
protecting it with the Fugitive Slave Clause and the Three-Fifths Compromise. And in practice, only white men who were Christian who owned land could vote in the earliest days. So on some level, they are going back to the origins of this country. Now, we thought we'd move beyond that, but they're actually true to the origins, and it's up this fight back and forth. I mean, white supremacy is as American as apple pie, but then again, so is progress and moving forward. And it's a push and pull between these two. This vile. I mean, I think we have to abolish MAGA. I don't know how you could coexist with a political movement that's a white supremacist. It is anti-democracy. It wants Christian law, the way they interpret it, to be the law of the land. How do we coexist? You can't find common ground. And if you lose any more elections, it's over. That's the problem. We have to destroy them politically. How we do
Yeah,
that
and
is a challenge.
I honestly I don't I the problem, I mean, we can go all the way back. Why are we here, Dean? Is because the original traitors, the Confederates, were never held responsible for trying to secede from this nation and causing a civil war because they refused to give up the ownership of other human beings. And instead of being punished, right? Instead of being punished, right, to the fullest extent of the law, they were turned into heroes, right? They were worshiped and turned into martyrs, and they have high schools and highways and chiseled into marble, right? Is what happened to the Confederacy. If they were held responsible for their crimes to
Mhm.
the fullest extent, if we had taught it in the way that the Germans said following World War II, we're going to make sure that every single generation that follows understands the depravity that went on here, and it's going to be taught and retaught over and over and over again. It's going to become a fabric of our nation. And instead, what did America do? They made a deal on the backs of Black people and then introduced Jim Crow for 100 years. Right? That's what they did. And then you want to talk about Donald Trump's erasure. You want to talk about his whitewashing of history. Well, why do most people only know about 5 Black leaders? Because it's the 5 Black leaders that they have desanitized and told you that you should know about. Why don't you know about the inventors that have done everything to give you modern access to fucking heat, electricity,
Mm.
streetcars, et cetera, et cetera? Why don't you know that? Right? Because like it was important to the system of white supremacy to make Black people criminals, to make them incompetent and lazy and deserving of oppression and force. Right? So like, again, I look at all of this and it's just like, this is what happens. Again, Joe Biden, Merrick Garland, they are responsible for why we are here. You had the opportunity from day one, after Biden's inauguration, following the insurrection, to
Mhm.
hold Donald Trump accountable, not to wait until he regathered himself and got bigger and more steam and more powerful and then announced that he was going to run for a reelection. You had the opportunity when that chopper took off from the South Lawn, that as soon as it touched down, that there were federal agents waiting for him. You didn't have to wait to concoct another investigation. You already had the Mueller report. You already had things that were brewing. So the fact that you decided to wait because you wanted to preserve institutions, they did again what they did back in the day to the Confederates. Oh, they'll forget about, oh, they feel bad. Oh, don't worry about it. And then because you don't take down the top, all you have done is seeded ground for now this cancer to having grown and metastasized across the country.
Yeah, I'm reading a really good book on Reconstruction because that's the kind of fun things I read. And Andrew Johnson, who was the president after Lincoln was assassinated, former slave owner, he pardoned everybody. And even where his instincts in the book were talking about, where he was like, maybe some of these people we shouldn't let back, they let him back at the end of the day, because he felt a kindred spirit with them, to be blunt. Former slave owner from the South, wanted to help them out. And I'm reading so much about the Freedmen's Bureau and what really went on and how it's not never funded properly. So you get the seeds there. But getting back to the big point, pardoning Jefferson Davis, pardoning waiving the Section 314th Amendment part, which says you can't serve in Congress. They were easily waiving that. Johnson was signing hundreds of pardons left and right to bring the country back together, but not because he was bigger spirited, because he felt a connection to the South and the slave owners. And so it was remarkable to watch January 6th and then watch the pardons play out again. And we don't learn as a country. And I couldn't agree with you more, about Merrick Garland and the failure he was. Now, yes, the Republicans in the Senate could have saved us and done the right thing and convicted Trump, but you never expect Republicans to do the right thing. I only expect Democrats to do the right thing. And this is where we are. All right. Before we run it, we actually went over in time. It's great to chat with you. That was the fastest 30 minutes of my life. It's always fun to chat. I'm like, I look up at the clock. I'm like, we're at 30 minutes. So where can people follow? What do you want them to follow you? Anything you want to share you're working on?
Dean, you're amazing. Thank you
Right.
once again for having me
Sure.
back on your incredible show. Folks can follow me and my work at the Damn Digest right here on Substack. They can follow me on YouTube. The Danielle Moodie Show and Democracy Ish is under my name. And, I say this all the time. I keep my content free. I keep my content free for a reason, because I believe that critical thinking dies behind a paywall. And so, but if you have the ability to become a paid subscriber, consider becoming a paid subscriber to the Damn Digest or becoming a paid subscriber to my YouTube channel. But if you cannot, simply just subscribe. Just subscribe, because again, I don't paywall my content.
My friend, it's great chatting with you. And thank you for everybody who joined. I see all the comments. I wish we had time to go through them. And people are like, bring Danielle on more. She's very busy, but I'm lucky to get her. I get her once a month. I'm very happy. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Love you all. Have a great day. Have a great day, my friend Danielle.
Thank you. You too.
Take care.